Okay, good morning, everybody. Today is our literature lesson where we're supposed to have our first lesson last week, but you had a holiday. That sounds a bit better, right? So we didn't meet up. So today I'm going to do a combination of last week's introduction to the Odyssey and today's Unit 1. Yeah? Okay, Ben, got it. What you were supposed to be doing for today was you should have already read chapter 1, and I know you don't have the book yet, but you already have gotten the PDF file of Unit 1 and Unit 2. The reason why you don't have your book yet is because of this government regulation PSBB, so we haven't set a schedule yet for you to pick it up. But your Wali will make a schedule for you to come to school in and out, in a schedule to when to pick up your literature book. Okay. Now, because you don't have it yet, I gave you the PDF. So please read from that. And we're going to use that also for today's lesson. As an overview, I'm going to show you a short video of what the book is about. And then we're going to go over some infographics to understand the book. Now, what I need from you is understanding that please do not judge this book from your 21st century mindset. Yeah, the book, The Odyssey, was written by Homer in the 8th century before Common Era, which was formerly called BC, before Christ, in the 8th century before Christ, which is now called BCE, before Common Era. So it's a super old book. It's basically an epic poem, which has a storyline, which is with a clear storyline. And the book that you will get is a shorter version, a thinner version. See, it's very thin, okay? And it's in language also adjusted to your level as ESL student, also not as long. So it is the complete story. It is just, and the complete plot, but it doesn't hold all the details that the original book holds, because the original would be like this thing. Okay. So yeah, if you look at the story, you might think, oh man, this is boring. I don't understand, like the thing is, it's a classic. It's a super famous story, which is good for literary analysis. Now, there are a few points that we're going to focus on for literature throughout this semester, as you can see in Moodle, which already holds the learning objectives for this semester. So we will do literary analysis. We will do literary elements, literary techniques, and literary projects. The projects that you will give will be at the end of the semester, not in March. It will be May. Other than that, you will only do some quizzes, not that many. After 2 units, 1 quiz. Yeah, which you can do. It's on a Google form. Yeah, and then for May, you will write a paragraph, not even an essay, but which is based on the book. Okay. Now, the point is for you to read the book by yourself, and during our Zoom lesson, we're going to have a review, because it's impossible to do everything during our Zoom meeting, right? So, yeah. So you got to, follow the schedule. Oh, schedules. We don't like schedules. No, we love schedules. They help us. Yeah. So if we look here, so last week we were supposed to look at literature. Yeah, this one is a language. And this is a literature. Okay, so we look here. The introduction of the Odyssey. Didn't do that. You were at home, sound asleep at this time last week. So yeah. Click here, of course. Hello, important. That is the link for the Spark Notes study guide. We're going to look at that today, and you can use that for yourself also. We had no post study, but we have free study. So you were supposed for literature to have read chapter 1. Whether you did that or not, don't answer. Don't answer the question. Did you read it? Don't answer. Because if you say, no, I didn't, I'm like, aduh, you poked my heart. Sad. If you did, I'm like, yay. So I don't want the poking of my heart. So just don't answer. You were supposed to have read that. And so today, when we look at today's information, is a review of chapter 1. And after today's lesson, the pre-study for next week lesson is you have to read chapter 2. Okay. Now, here you see the novel information. Yeah, that's the Odyssey study guide. And here we see the information. There's a Google Slides about literary devices. We're going to go over that today. Yeah. And this is very important. I made you a compilation, a summary of what the elements are of literature that are important. Yeah. So you have to read through that. Now, I haven't made an ebook for literature so far. Would want to do that. I haven't gotten around to it yet. As you can see, is that I use this unit schedule for pasting all the links for the extra information. So just a quick review so you get this. Moodle is your platform, right? So I place all the formats there, the journal format, log format, the ebooks, everything is in Moodle, yeah? Whereas the extra information is down the page on the bottom, and like ebook links, unit schedule, grading form is all at the top of the Moodle. Yeah, with the calendar, the academic calendar, and everything's on top. Now, after that, you get the first topic, which is literature, and then you have the explanation about the literary project, which is from May. And then under that, you have Unit 3, listening and speaking. So you have the announcement of the ebooks, the explanation of when they need to be done, the explanation about the speaking test and log. So that's the speaking project, when that should be done, submitted, and the criteria. And it holds the unit test for listening and speaking criteria and when that will be held. And then underneath is Unit 3, reading and writing, and it's the same. Yeah, the writing project, the journal is explained there, ebook activities, and the unit test for reading and writing, when it will be done. So it gives criteria and the submission date or the due date. Yeah, so it will remind you in Moodle, hey, this is coming up, okay? That's to help you. But do not submit your homework there. Do not submit your homework in Moodle. Submit your homework inside a Google form, which you can access in your ebook. Okay? So everything is done inside a Google form, which is in your ebook. Okay, got that? Clear, yeah? For the literary project, I will give you the link also in your ebook, but it's not yet there. I still have to post that. Okay, because the literature program is totally changed because of this new season. I had to redo everything. Now, for any extra information, PPTs or Google Slides, I shorten it with GS, yeah? Google Slides, links of material, videos, extra information, stuff that I make is all placed as a link in your unit schedule under the part where it's necessary. So every week, look at the schedule. Like, what are we going to do this week? What is my pre-study job to do? And remember, your pre-study, which is the video and the textbook activities, is not homework. That is your class period material. And then the study in the middle here, the Zoom, is the reviewing, questioning, the interactive session. And then the post-study is also not homework. That is your class time activities of pre-studying the material, doing the activities in your ebook. Okay? So that is important for you to know. But at the same time, you can access the link. So remember, Moodle platform, all the homework, tasks, tests, announcements, and criteria are placed there. Extra information is accessed through the unit schedule. Okay? No homework is posted in Moodle. Everything is placed inside a Google form, which is accessed in your ebook. Got that, yeah? Great. So that's what you can see here under the projects. I already placed your group discussion rubric, and I already gave a summary for your opinion writing. So if you're confused, you can go through that. You can ask me questions. I will also open it in class, but you can also self-study it. For the ebook activities, just an information, I've opened them all. Last semester, I didn't do that. I opened them per week, but now I just opened all. You can do them all at your pace. So if you want to do, let's say, whole unit 3 right now, be my guest. You can. You don't have to. You can follow this schedule, or you go faster. That is okay. Except for post-test and unit tests, those are not yet opened. Okay? I need to make sure the journal and the log is also open. If in case that's not open, please warn me. I will fix it. My apologies if there are mistakes. I'm doing my best to do it flawless. But yeah, we're only human. Just let me know if something is not right. Okay, that brings us straight away to the Odyssey. I'm gonna show you the video. It's not a wow video, but it gives you a clear idea. Yeah, let's pay attention to this. You need to be very patient because it's sometimes a bit slow. Oh, sorry.
The Odyssey is about Odysseus' journey home after the Trojan War. Odysseus is a Greek. He's the king of Ithaca, and before the start of the poem, he and the other Greeks laid siege to the city of Troy, located in what's now northwestern Turkey. The war lasted for 10 years. After the Greeks defeated the Trojans, Odysseus and his men got back in their ships and started their trip home to Ithaca, a rocky little island off the Greek mainland, where Odysseus' wife and son are waiting for him. Along the way, they run into several dangerous obstacles, and all of Odysseus' men die. Odysseus survives because of his intelligence and cunning, the qualities he's renowned for, and he eventually makes it home, but the journey takes him 10 years. The story breaks roughly into 3 parts. The first part doesn't really even involve Odysseus. It's more about what's going on in Ithaca with his wife and son while he's gone. In the second part, we learn what happened to Odysseus in the 8 years since he left Troy. And in the final part, we finally see Odysseus return home. The poem opens with 2 gods, Zeus and Athena, discussing Odysseus' fate. Odysseus is stuck on an island in the middle of the sea, in the house of a nymph named Calypso. Calypso won't let Odysseus leave, but even if he could leave, the god Poseidon keeps sending Odysseus off course as he tries to make it home. Poseidon is mad at Odysseus, because Odysseus blinded his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus. Athena says if Zeus and all the other gods agree Odysseus should be allowed to leave, then Poseidon can't really argue, since he's outnumbered. They should dispatch Hermes to tell Calypso to let Odysseus go, and in the meantime, she'll go visit Odysseus' son, Telemachus. Disguised as a man, Athena goes to Odysseus' home in Ithaca. Telemachus thinks she's just a stranger at first, and invites her in for some food and wine, though he figures out after a little while that the stranger is really Athena. He laments that he'll never see his father, and complains about all the nobles from nearby islands who are courting his mother, since everyone assumes Odysseus is dead. His mother, Penelope, doesn't want to marry someone else, but she doesn't want to tell her suitors to leave either, so they just hang around Odysseus' house all day and eat all the food. Athena prophesies that Odysseus will soon return, and she counsels Telemachus to round up all the suitors in the morning and order them to leave. Then he should get a ship ready and visit King Nestor in Pylos and King Menelaus in Sparta. If he hears from one of them that Odysseus is alive, he should wait another year for Odysseus to return. But if he learns Odysseus is dead, he should make a grave for him and give his mother to one of the suitors. Telemachus calls an assembly like Athena suggested. He gets up and says that not only has he lost his father, but now these suitors are eating all his family's food and drinking all the wine. One of the suitors, Antinous, says Telemachus has no right to be upset. It's Penelope who's to blame. She's been leading the suitors on for almost 4 years, saying she'll choose one to marry as soon as she finishes weaving a burial shroud for Odysseus' father, Laertes. She weaves the shroud each day, but at night she unravels her work, and the suitors found out. Telemachus says he'll never force his mother to choose a husband and leave their house. He announces his plans to see what news he can find of Odysseus in Sparta and Pylos. Athena helps him get a ship and crew together, and she disguises herself as an old friend of Odysseus's, named Mentor. When they arrive at Pylos, they meet King Nestor, who fought at Troy with Odysseus. Nestor says he hasn't seen or heard from Odysseus since just after they left Troy. He agrees to help Telemachus get to Sparta to talk to Menelaus. Telemachus takes a chariot and goes with Nestor's son, Pisistratus, to Sparta. In Sparta, a big wedding feast is underway as they arrive, and they join Menelaus for some food and wine. As they talk, Menelaus' wife, Helen, recognizes Telemachus as Odysseus' son. She tells the story of how, during the Trojan War, Odysseus dressed up as a beggar and snuck into Troy to gather information to take back to the Greeks. She orders the servants to prepare beds for Telemachus and Pisistratus. The next morning, Menelaus tells Telemachus that the last news he heard of Odysseus he got while stranded on a small island off the coast of Egypt. When he left Troy, he didn't make the appropriate sacrifices to the gods, so the gods marooned him on a little island called Pharos. He and his men were running out of food when Menelaus met a goddess named Idothea, the daughter of Proteus. She told him if he could pin and hold Proteus, Proteus would answer any question he had. With Idothea's help, Menelaus and his men snuck up on Proteus. As soon as he fell asleep, Menelaus jumped on him. Proteus transformed into different things to get out of Menelaus' hold, but Idothea warned he would do this, and Menelaus kept him in a tight squeeze until he tired out. The first question Menelaus asked is what happened to his Greek comrades, and Proteus told him about a few of the Greeks, including Odysseus. He saw a vision of Odysseus on an island, crying in the house of the nymph Calypso. Calypso was keeping him there by force, and he didn't have any ship or any means of getting away. That was the last Menelaus heard of Odysseus. Meanwhile, two of the suitors, Antinous and Eurymachus, come up with a plot to kill Telemachus when he returns. They decide to wait with the ship and ambush him, but Medon, the herald, overhears the scheme and tells Penelope. She prays to Athena to save Telemachus, and Athena hears her. Zeus and Athena compromise and agree that Odysseus can go home, but that he'll have to suffer more along the way. Zeus sends Hermes to give Calypso the news. Calypso finds Odysseus sitting by the shore and crying. He hardly believes at first that he's being allowed to leave, and he makes Calypso promise it's not some scheme to harm him. She swears an oath, and they go back to Calypso's cave, where they make love. For the rest of the story, continue on to part 2 of the Odyssey video Spark Note. For more.
Okay, so we have this is part 1, and then you have part 2, and then you have part 3. So there are more videos. If you would want to know all of them, let me show you. Oh wait, maybe we can go from here, yeah. Wait a second. Okay. Yeah. So now I got my screen back. So basically, if you would want to
more information about the Odyssey, check out the Odyssey Spark Note on www.
If you, for example, would want to know more, then you could get that through going to Spark Notes, as I told you before. So that would be in the other link that I've given you. Remember that here I showed you the link of Spark Notes here, novel information. Now, this is the one that you want to go to in order to get more information. So here in Spark Notes about the Odyssey, it gives you a very clear information about everything. Yeah, the full study guides, the full text, and the infographics. Now, today we're going to look at the infographics. It's nice because it really lays out what the story is about. Yeah. And also it shows later on the video that you would be able to access to see the other videos of the story. The video that you just saw is just part 1. Yeah, basically this story, the video, this whole story is compiled out of 3 parts: part 1, part 2, part 3. Yeah. Part 1 is the video you saw just now. Yeah, that is Odysseus stranded on the island, stuck there, and what happens at home with his wife Penelope and his child, his son Telemachus. And then you have part two, where then Telemachus is trying to get his father back, and Odysseus tries to go back. And then you have part three, where Odysseus is at home. Yeah, and he fights to get the suitors out of his house. So it's basically three parts. Just now I showed you the video only of part one, but there are three which we can access. Okay. Now the first thing we're gonna look at here, let's look at um, the outline of this. The genre is an epic poem, so it's actually a literary poem, epic poem. The setting is in the Mediterranean coast. The year that this book was written was in the 8th century before Common Era, that means before Christ, and the author is Homer. So it's a super old story. And as you've already noticed, it's Greek mythology. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are aware of that. Maybe old stories that have been made, like Percy Jackson back in the day. That is also Greek mythology. There's a lot of movies that have been made about Greek mythology. Yeah, that's about the whole idea back in those days that they believed in gods, the god of the sun, the god of the sea, the god of the, that was what people believed because they had no other understanding. Yeah. So basically, the Odyssey tells the story of the hero Odysseus. Okay, so Odysseus battles many antagonists, many bad guys. So Odysseus went to the Battle of Troy. You must know the story of Troy, with the wooden horse in which the soldiers went inside, and then as a gift to Troy, and then they hold it inside, and at night all the soldiers came out and killed every citizen of Troy. And so this story is a very famous story. The story of Troy. There's also movies that have made about it. You must know. Now, Odysseus. So the whole story of the Odyssey is that Odysseus, he is a king of his island. Okay, so he has a big estate. He's a king of his island, and so he went to Troy to fight the battle, and he wins. Okay, he wins. And then on his way back, he was supposed to do certain sacrifices to the gods, and he did not do that. So the idea is that the gods became angry, and on his way home, he got shipwrecked. All his friends died, only he survived, and he is on an island, and by the gods, he's kept there. So he has no way of turning back home. Yeah. So Odysseus fights the battles against antagonists, including his own inability to listen to the gods' warnings. He doesn't listen. Yeah, so on his journey home from war. Along the way, the poem explores ideas about fate, retribution, and the forces of civilization versus savagery. Yeah, the civilized people and the ones that are not. Now, the Odyssey is organized around a single goal. Odysseus returned to his homeland. Odysseus wants to go home to his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus in Ithaca, where he will defeat the rude suitors camped in his palace and reunite with his loyal wife Penelope. Now, this is the thing. So, Odysseus has a wife Penelope, have a baby, Telemachus. He leaves to the Trojan War. The Trojan War took 10 years. He was there 10 years. Can you imagine that? Then he wins. He goes home. Finally, I can go home to my wife Penelope. Then on his way home, he gets stuck. It takes him another 10 years to get home. So by the time he gets home, his son is already a young adult. Okay? So he's stuck on the island. Finally, the gods allow him to go back home. He goes back home, but then he disguises himself to pretend to be someone else. Now, in the meantime, in his 20 years of absence, there have been a lot of guys that have been coming to the estate to want to marry Penelope. That's called a suitor, okay? Chalon. Many suitors come. Why do they want to marry Penelope? Because then they become the king of that island and become rich. Penelope doesn't want that. They don't know for sure if Odysseus is alive, but everybody assumes he's dead. Okay? But these suitors live at the estate and use up all the facilities. So that makes the son angry. If you look at the plot overview here, this is nice. This is called a narrative arc. You need to remember this, a narrative arc, which has the beginning line is the setting. The setting is always the time and the place and the characters. Yeah, so where does the story take place? What characters are involved? What was the time of the story, and where does it take place? But you can also take into account context such as historical context, social context, economical context is also something to consider. Cultural, historical, social, economical. Yeah, these are very important factors. Now, if you look at my information that I give the links, it's already in there as well. So you have also the historical context, the economical context, the social context, and no, I forget one. Yeah, well, the four. And so you have to think about that. So don't judge the book by, oh, that's boring. For the 21st century, of course, we don't write stories like these. But in that time, it was about war, overcoming or winning or losing the war, the gods of the sea, of the air, of the whatever, and romance mostly. That was mostly what it was centered around. So the setting, and then you have the rising action. In the rising action, it starts here with the conflict, which is revealed, and then you get the suspense, which builds up to the peak, which is the climax. And then you have the falling action, in which you have you go towards the resolution, and then this is the ending. That's how it goes in every story. This is what we call a literary element. Yeah, the literary elements are the setting, conflict, suspense, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, ending. It includes characters, time, place of the setting, and it includes historical context, economical context, cultural context, and social context. Okay, those are the elements of literary elements. That's all in one. If you look at Moodle, you can see that in the learning objectives, it's already stated there. It's the literary analysis. That's what we're going to look at. Literary elements, the literary techniques. Those are figurative language. And then we have the literary project. So we're going to look at these elements while we meet through our Zoom. That's why it's imperative for you to read by yourself. Okay, so let's look at the setting, which falls under the rising action. Odysseus journeys home, returns to Ithaca with his son Telemachus. Odysseus, disguised as a beggar, receives abuse, yeah? Upon entering his palace, Penelope challenges the suitors to a bow and arrow contact. So the suitors really want to take hold of the estate. And then the major conflict that we get is Odysseus must return home and get rid of the suitors who threaten his estate to take over. And his son Telemachus must grow up and secure his own reputation in the Greek society. Then it goes on and on and on and on, build suspense, come to the climax. Odysseus reveals himself after accomplishing Penelope's challenge. So he joins the bow and arrow contest and he wins, and then proves to her that she is the husband, because they all think he's dead, right? And then we get the falling action. Odysseus and Telemachus fight and kill the suitors, and Odysseus reunites with his father. Athena restores peace to Ithaca, and that's the resolution. And then we get to the ending. Okay? Now, let's look at the setting, the main characters for a bit. Here are the main characters, the three. Then we have the smaller characters, and these are the Greek gods, yeah, that are central to the story since it is Greek mythology. Back in those days, they really believed in that. It's interesting if you look at that history. So we've got Telemachus, the son of Odysseus, yeah, who kind of through the story grows up being a baby when his dad leaves, being a young adult when his dad returns. Of course, we have Odysseus. He's the hero. He's courageous. He's smart. He's cunning. He's a very good warrior, and he tries to return home. There are a lot of novels that have been written based um, on Odysseus's character. Yeah, as a what is that? As a yeah, based on his character um, written stories. And then we've got Penelope, Odysseus' loyal wife, and Telemachus' mom. Then we go to the smaller characters here. We have Laertes, Odysseus' aging father, who resides on a farm in Ithaca. And then we've got King Alcinous, the king of the Phaeacians, who offers Odysseus hospitality and safe passage back to Ithaca. And Antinous, the most arrogant of Penelope's suitors, who leads the campaign to have Telemachus killed. They want to kill him. So mean. Now, the gods, we have the first one, Zeus. Zeus is the king of gods and men. So he's the biggest and mediates the disputes. So he mediates the quarrels and the fights of the gods on Mount Olympus. Poseidon, who is the god of the sea, who despises Odysseus. He hates him for blinding his son. So he has a son, a Cyclops, Polyphemus. And because of the fight, Odysseus blinds him and he's very angry because of that. We've got Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom and battle, who often helps Odysseus in his journey. Then we've got Calypso. She's an immortal goddess who holds Odysseus prisoner on her island, and she forces him to be her lover. We have another one who is Circe, the beautiful witch goddess who transforms the Odysseus' crew into swine and eventually becomes Odysseus' lover for a year. Remember, the guy is stuck on an island. Yeah. Then some of the themes that we see in the story is the homecoming is a very strong theme. It's all about Odysseus coming home. It's about divine justice, like evil must lose, the good must win, and temptation. For symbols, we have food and the wedding bed. This is a quote from the story, but if you only knew down deep what pains are fated to fill your cup before you reach that shore, you'd stay right here beside in our house with me and be immortal. So definitely the goddess didn't want Odysseus to go back home. Now, a key question here is, why does Odysseus kill the suitors? So finally he gets home, but he doesn't come like, oh, Penelope, I've missed you. No, he comes disguised because he knows that the suitors will kill him. That's why he disguises him to come up with a plan to take back his kingdom and his wife. Right? So Odysseus wants revenge on the suitors, on those Chalon, by living at Odysseus' expense because these suitors just started living at his kingdom and eat there, live there, stay there. And that's just, he's super angry about that. So the suitors have wasted a lot of his wealth, and more important, by taking advantage of his absence. So Odysseus wasn't around, they took advantage of that. And the suitors have insulted Odysseus and damaged his reputation. And so Odysseus couldn't just come back and say, hi guys, I'm back. No, he had to regain his reputation. That's why he comes disguised, joins the bow and arrow contest, wins and shows, see, it's me, the valid heir or the king of this palace, you know? Because he lives by the heroic code, which is called Kleos, or fame, which values the reputation above everything else. That was the Greek belief. Now the ending is very sad, also in a way of, or intriguing. The whole second half of the Odyssey. So the first is about him being stuck, and Telemachus trying to find a way to get his dad back. And then the second whole half of the Odyssey is structured as a series of scenes in which Odysseus reveals his identity. Yeah, and he defeats the suitors. If you look at, it can also be the part that he tries to come home. And Odysseus first reveals his identity to Penelope. The next day, he and Telemachus travel to the farm where Odysseus' grieving father, Laertes, lives. Together, the men prepare to fight the fathers of the murdered suitors, but Athena intervenes to make peace. And it ends basically with peace. Yeah? Awesome beans. That's cool. Now here we have the full text Now the full text is the text of the original book, yeah, not the one you have. But as I said, your book is complete, and you could read through it if you would want to get a good idea of the story. All right. And the study guide. The study guide is real cool because it gives you a summary plot overview. Now here you have the plot summary for the videos, so you could go over those to see what it is that basically they have. See, we looked at the first one, but you also have, this is what we watched just now, but you also have the Odyssey Part 2, yeah, which we will watch later on, or if you want to watch it on your own. Yeah. So this is the one that, this is the one that he is trying to get back to his kingdom, right? And then we have the second part, which he is at home and he's trying to fight the suitors to really regain control of his kingdom. And that is basically in the original book. That would be a video about chapters 23, 24. Yeah. But that's kind of cool because it kind of helps you in a way to better understand the story. I also have key questions, a summary and analysis of each chapter. That is books, but basically chapters, the real book, talks about the characters. So depending on your project analysis, literary analysis, you can look into this to figure out. It gives themes, solutions. So basically it also talks about the elements and the techniques. Yeah. And quotes. So that's really cool. And further study, if you would want to do that, of what was the hospitality like in ancient Greek at the time, and so on. So it gives you really a lot of information. Looking at the setting. So the setting of the story was the Mediterranean coast during the Bronze Age. That was approximately 8th to the 12th century of before Christ, or before Common Era. So it was around the year 700. Itu tua sekali, the year 700. Yeah, and the poem is set 500 years earlier. Yeah, so it was made around that time, but the time period though is amazing. So you could look it up to see what the setting is like. Yeah, you could just go into it more to figure that one out. Yeah. Okay, that brings us back to one thing I want to look into before we continue is literary devices. So I told you just now we have as our objectives, we will do literary analysis. You can see that in Moodle, yeah. And then so we will be looking at the literary devices, which we can divide into two. Yeah, literary devices are literary elements and techniques. So if you're asking me what are literary devices, those are elements and techniques. Yeah. Yeah, to just go over this for a bit. Yeah, so this basically goes over some of the things. So these are basically the techniques in this. So how we divided elements and techniques. Yeah, so the elements, as I said already just now, is the narrative arc, the setting, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and resolution, and the components of a setting, and the theme, and all that. The conflict. Those are the elements of the story. Yeah. But what I'm going to show you right now are the techniques. These are the things that we use in order to create an imaginary idea. So imagery, building imagery means that you're creating these mental pictures, an image. That's why it's called imagery. So you create this image in your head of something. Now, an author uses techniques for that. And the techniques that an author uses helps you to imagine. You imagine it imaginatively, can see, can smell, can hear, can feel, can experience as if it is real. What's so cool about it? And that's what we call literary techniques, yeah? To build imagery. And we use sensory details. Those are the that go into the senses of sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. And we've got figurative language. Now, what we're leaning into right now, like onomatopoeia is figurative language. Onomatopoeia are sound words. Okay, how would you write to pronounce a sound? Come on, the door cracked. What is it? The door made a weird sound. No, the door cracked. Crack, crack, crack. Tick tock, whoops, zap, crunch, wang. Those are sound words. Yeah. Then we've got personification. That is often used in literature. It's when you give human qualities to unhuman things. So the car drank, the cat laughed, the newspaper headline glared at me. That's impossible. Yeah. The walking, talking teapot. Alliteration is the repetition of the same consonant sound in words, so they occur near to one another. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Try to say that fast, that's a tongue twister. It's hard. Or Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Some smug look. Yeah, so the repetition of consonant, which creates a certain repetition, which in order creates an atmosphere, a mood, or an underlying meaning. We can also have the assonance, where you do the repetition of vowel sounds. Symbolism, you use an object or an action that means something more than it just literally means. For example, pink can be the fight against breast cancer. The Statue of Liberty represents freedom. So literally, it's a statue that was placed for at the time of liberty, but it actually represents freedom, which was given by the French, if I'm not mistaken. Interesting. A paradox reveals something true, which at first seems a contradiction, but it is true. He was a brave coward. So if you look at it, brave coward, that's weird, He's brave, but a coward? Like, how does that work? That's a paradox. And paradox and an oxymoron are very similar. And the difference is that a paradox is mostly in a sentence and an oxymoron not necessarily. We'll get to that. Hyperbole is exaggerating things. I'm so hungry, I could eat a horse. A cow? Go get a horse for you. Simile, is comparing things, in comparison between two things. But the comparison is very clear. Yeah, use like or as. He ran like a cat, lightly and quietly. So itu jelas sekali, he is compared to a cat. The difference with a metaphor is, which is also a comparison, it's an unlike comparison, an unclear comparison. So two unlike things are compared, but not that obvious. You do not use like or as. He was a statue waiting to hear the news. Not he was like a statue. Yeah. An allusion is a casual reference to a famous historical or literary figure event. Nah, here you got the horse I talked about just now. This is the Trojan horse. See that? And all the soldiers went inside and it was locked up. It was a gift. And at night it came out. Something interesting. Now, so allusion is when you refer to something which has been so long ago before. For example, if it doesn't stop raining, I'm going to build an ark. Okay, of course you're not going to build an ark. That's the whole idea. Or for example, here my sister has so many pets. I'm going to call myself Old MacDonald. A reference to something that has been made before. Okay, here we come to the point of imagery, what I talked about with you. Yeah. So you're invoking, you're creating these senses, but they're all imaginary in your head. The smell reminded him of rotting tomatoes. So basically, you can use vocab that imaginarily makes you smell, see, hear, even feel things. Super, super strong. So to build imagery, visual mind pictures here in your head, you use two things: sensory details. Yeah, those are multiple adjectives that initiate the imaginary feeling or sense of smell, hearing, taste, touch, and figurative language. Yeah, like similes, metaphors, allusion, alliteration, assonance, hyperbole, and onomatopoeia, just to create a deeper meaning. Another one is idiom, expression with a meaning different from the literal meaning. So you cannot literally translate that. This is such a cute picture. It looks like my mom back home putting on the laundry because we use this kind of line. Look at that. They don't sell that here in Indonesia. So cute. Okay, I got cold feet before my speech, which means I was scared. Why don't you just say I was scared? See, that's the thing. If you just say I was scared, it's not as pretty. But if you say I got cold feet before my speech, yeah, it means that you were scared. But it's just more beautifully written. Here we come to this oxymoron that I said just now. Two opposite terms. So it's very similar to a paradox. The difference is a paradox is a whole sentence. And an oxymoron is more two words. Yeah? Peaceful war, generous cheapskate, dark sunshine. Yeah? It does mean, but it looks like, oh my gosh, how really? Like here, stop, keep moving. It's really contradictory. Euphemism, another one, is a polite word or phrase used in place of one that may not be too direct, unpleasant, or embarrassing. Yeah. So basically, with euphemism, you make something bad sound good. Then instead of saying the old man is dead, he passed away. Right? Or instead of saying, well, that guy is short, you could say, oh, this is something. He's vertically challenged. You're so vertically challenged. Okay, that's a good one. Oh, this is a good one. Farted. John just farted. No, he tooted. Or you could say, I just got fired. You could say, no, I just got let go of. Or I just bought a used car. This sounds like so, yeah. You can say, well, I just bought a pre-owned car. It just sounds better. It's good for people with a big ego, yeah? To make things seem a bit better. Cliches. This is also my grandma. You see a lot of my grandma now, yeah? Cliche is an expression that has lost its power. You know, it's not original. It's overused. It's like, yeah, we don't want to use cliches. Like talking a mile a minute, quiet as a mouse, easy as pie. Those are cliches. And in literature, mostly, we do not like it so much to write cliches. A pun? Okay, that is just playing with words in a funny way. Yeah, and it mostly has a double meaning. Yeah. Frog parking only, all other will be towed. Double meaning. When a clock is hungry, it goes back 4 seconds. Or a man stole a case of soap from the corner store. He made a clean getaway. So soap and clean. So that's basically the idea. Now, what are the two goals of this? First, you need to be able to identify techniques and you need to be able to use them. Those are the two things that are most important. The ability to identify them in the Odyssey that we're reading and being able to use them. Okay, bear with me. I still got 5 minutes, dudes. We're almost there. Okay, I'm going to listen with you a little bit to the Odyssey just to have an idea. You should have already, remember, don't answer that. Just, I assume that you read it. Yeah, otherwise I'll be very sad that you didn't. So I'm just going to assume you did. Thank you, my beloved students, for reading chapter 1. Yay! Okay, let's have an idea of how what that sounds like. Just a quick peek at our schedule again. Oh, I love my schedule. I hope you do too. Probably not. Okay, here we are. Chapter 1 review. I can't review everything today, but for those also who haven't read it yet, Your pre-study will be reading chapter 2, but if you haven't read 1 yet, please also read chapter 1. And then next week, lit session will be reviewing chapters 1 and 2 in 1 and doing quiz 1. Oh boy, with quizzes. Yep. After every 2 units, chapters, we have 1 quiz. After every 2 chapters, there is 1 quiz. Yeah? They're not too hard. You can open your book for that. You can go into Spark Notes for that. Whatever you need to use it to answer, that's fine. It's just for you to work with the book and really try to understand the whole concept. And during the Zoom meeting, go over the elements and techniques of literature. Yeah. So here, remember, look at this. This was the PPT we went over just now. Oh no, the Google slides, sorry. And this is the literary devices, techniques, and elements. You need to read that on your own. Yeah. Okay, wait. I think I want to get to this part. Here we go. We're going to listen to 1. This is only 3 minutes.
Chapter 1. An Island Without a King. If you prefer to destroy my property, then stay. But I will ask Zeus for a day of judgment, and on that day, I will destroy you.
This is the first page, yeah? That is chapter 1, page 1. So you can look at your PDF.
Odysseus's unlucky fate is causing me great sadness, said the goddess Athene to her father, the great god Zeus. It is now 20 years since he has seen his home and loving family. Zeus, Father, King of Kings, why are you doing nothing to help this man? I have not forgotten the great hero Odysseus, my child, replied Zeus. You are right. His troubles have continued long enough. We should bring him home. Thank you, Father, said bright-eyed Athene. First, I will go to Odysseus's palace and talk to his son, young Telemachus. I must make him ready for his father's return. Athene put on her shoes of gold, which carried her as fast as the wind down from Mount Olympus, over land and sea, to the island of Ithaca. As she arrived at Odysseus's palace, she disguised herself as a man called Mentes, a family friend of Odysseus. Outside the house, she found a group of men playing a noisy game, while servants were busy around them. Some of the servants were mixing wine and water in bowls. Others were piling meat onto plates and preparing the tables for dinner. Odysseus's son, Telemachus, was sitting unhappily among the men, dreaming of his father's return. Telemachus saw Athene in her disguise and felt ashamed that no one was greeting the visitor. He hurried towards her. "Welcome, friend," he said. "Come and have some food. Then you can tell us why you are here." He led Athene to a table away from the other men, worried that his visitor would be upset by their noise and rudeness. A servant poured water into a fine silver bowl so they could wash their hands. Then plates of bread and meat were brought, and their gold cups were filled with wine.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the part of the audio, only around 1 page. I cannot do everything today, so make sure you've read 1 until 2, chapter 1 and 2, and then we will review that in our next literature class next week. Okay, I hope you got something out of it. I really hope that you get an idea of the story. really read the book. It is not that hard, and it's a very interesting story. And as you know, that a lot of archetypes are based, that a lot of characters in stories that have been written, in movies that have been made, are based on Odysseus from the Odyssey. It's such a famous archetype. Okay, guys, have a great day. God bless you. Thank you very much for your awesomeness today, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.